Hey everyone, I did a Q&A recently for the new Sheridan Animation Bachelor of Animation Portfolio Guidelines, and a lot of the same questions were coming up again and again. So I thought I would do a quick video to just go over some of the additions to the portfolio this year based on all the previous years. I've been tutoring students to make their animation portfolios for many years now, over 10 years. And so I've been kind of watching the Sheridan portfolio change in little ways over time. The overall portfolio has remained the same for quite a number of years now. It's very specific and they ask for very particular things. So I'm just going to go over some of the new things for this year, and also I'm going to answer some of the questions that came up a lot during the Q&A. So let's dig in. So pretty much most of the requirements are the same. The observational drawing, they still say that showing construction is acceptable. They do like seeing the construction lines. If you've seen any of the Sheridan portfolios online, then probably you've seen what that means. The sort of like broke down form to show the geometry of the anatomy, especially with the hand drawing, but also with the figure. They want to see more of the interior forms of the figure rather than just a contour that kind of goes around the figure. Yes, shading is not required, meaning probably don't shade. There's no benefit to the shading unless it's helping the form happen, but your line work can absolutely do that by itself, especially if you learn to draw the Sheridan way. They have kind of a particular way, which is sort of a tradition that's carried through from I guess Bridgman in some ways, Andrew Loomis's kind of breakdown of the human body, and also Vilpu. It's kind of a mixture of those figures, I would say, that Sheridan likes to see, but not heavily rendered, not shaded too heavily. Yeah, so they want to see from not books or photographs. I know for many students in the world, this isn't really an option, so you have to use whatever you can. Try to not use the same resources that everyone else is using. That's what I would say. So obviously the longer poses, the 5 to 20 minutes, should be relatively still. The figure should be still. The short poses, though, should show the figure in motion. This doesn't literally mean a figure running. That is impossible to hold and draw. It just means a pose that implies motion could happen or just happened to get into the pose. So that could even be seated if it feels like they're getting up from the pose. It doesn't literally mean running or walking. It just needs to imply that, okay, motion could happen here. Also, don't draw a figure, for those that are using photo references, I know it says not to do this, but obviously many do. Don't draw a figure that couldn't possibly hold the pose, like a figure leaping through the air or something. That is obviously going to immediately reveal that you worked from a photo. The hand drawing, this is the same, holding an object and then tossing that object. That's exactly the same as always. Character rotation is the same. Make sure that you realize that you don't require a back view. I still have so many students that draw a back view. This is a 3/4 back view. So that's kind of like halfway between a side view and a back view. So a back 3/4 view, almost like over the shoulder view. I mean, there's lots of tips I could tell you about the character, but that's a much longer video. Just try to be unique, try to make something that's an interesting design, interesting shapes, something that we want to learn more about. My world building courses goes into the psychology of the characters a little bit more and talks more about like the story building and storytelling around the character that isn't just design of character. I think in order to make a really believable character, it needs to feel like, wow, I can see that personality, I can imagine them in the world. So I think that's a big part of it. Okay, so the short animation this year changes objects every year. This year it's the walkie-talkie, which is down here. So yay, walkie-talkie again. This little circular thing often is used as like a spring or an arm. I find students are often finding creative ways to kind of draw that using that, the actual antenna. So kind of fun. Some people use the buttons, but not too much. Okay. I'm still frustrated by Sheridan's description here of like the length, because this isn't really clear enough. Images could mean frames or it could mean drawn images. And what I've seen in the past is that a lot of students will draw a 4-second scene each second has 24 frames per second, but in animation you only draw on every other frame, on 2s at least. Some people draw on 3s, some people draw on 1s, or different studios might have different preferences. But for the most part, animation is drawn on 2s, which means you're drawing on every other frame. So for 24 frames in 1 second, you're only drawing actually 12 frames, and then each of those frames are being held for 2 frames, right? So that's how it works. It's a bit technical and confusing. You can look up what it means to have animation on 2s, but that's basically it. So I've seen most of my students make a 48 drawn image scene, which is really double that. So 96 frames, which is really 4 seconds. So as long as it's good, I haven't seen Sheridan be too picky about the actual length. Some students even go beyond that. I really don't think this is a huge deal. Don't make a 10-second scene. I don't think that's a good idea, but just a short scene of animation. And try to keep, the drawings on 2s. Don't draw on 1s. That's not necessary. You're not going to get more points for doing that, and it just takes way more time. And it doesn't have to be super complicated. Look at the score sheet. It kind of reveals what they're marking for the animation. Believable motion, clarity, and composition. They're not marking storytelling. It's not the same as the storyboard. It's more, do a simple action and make it a fun execution of how you make that mechanical animation work. It's not just like, give it some life, of course, make it come alive, but you don't have to do a complicated scene with like a big story. You're not going to get more points for that. Okay, so that's, again, pretty much the same. Storyboarding, the new prompt is opportunities don't just happen, you create them. I think it's a really fun prompt this year. I think that's great. I'm really looking forward to seeing what everyone comes up with that. For that. Yeah, just really interesting. So basically it's like, oh, and it's the fox this year. It's not the possum. Here's the fox. So yeah, make the fox do something that is like, I'm not going to wait for things. I'm going to make this happen. Something passionate, willful. Maybe everyone's being passive and the fox is doing something active. I don't know. There's a lot of potential that I can see here. But yeah, a kind of willful fox just like going for it. It doesn't mean that it needs to be a good idea, what they come up with, but it does, it means that they're going to make something happen. So yeah, you could take that in a positive or negative route, but I think it's definitely a fun storyboard prompt, if a little bit challenging. Many students that I've had have been quite challenged by it so far, but yeah, I think that's fun. Okay, so the perspective line, this is exactly the same. They did mention this. I'm not sure if they mentioned this last year. Do not draw the same place twice. I would draw something from your imagination, or if you're going to do something from observation in real life, add an imaginative element into it, add a personality into it, make it feel like, wow, I can imagine the kind of person that lives here. Yeah, cartoony or realistic style. So this is the same. So an interior and then an exterior that is more natural and organic shapes. And you can have some human-made elements, but just not a lot. I would probably only have the human-made elements take up maybe 25% of the composition, but maybe not even that, probably less. So mostly make it natural things. And then the first one's interior and more geometric, of course. So yeah, make sure they're widescreen. A lot of students do like a square or like 4:3 ratio. They want to see widescreen, so make it wide. You can make the degree of which is, quite, it doesn't have to be 16:9 ratio, which is the classic widescreen, but it could be wider, make it a very expansive environment. It's up to you. I think shading is great. I think it does help break down the, it just helps us to see things a little bit more clearly. But also, yeah, you can draw some rough construction as well. So seeing through objects a little bit is not a bad idea. You can submit thumbnails or earlier drafts. Okay, sure, that's cool. Go for that. I think that's a great idea. Showing process is always good. All right, so this is where they did add a significant amount this year on specifically about animation, and they're being much more descriptive about this, and also like a demo reel. They say that's a good idea to make a demo reel of your animation. One thing that I really want to point students to that I think is super valuable is this part. They are not grading the animation they are only grading the animated performance, not color editing, compositing, or finished scenes, which is really great because I've been telling students this for years, and I see a lot of work that is really glossy, all colorful with shading and all these fancy effects. I've thought about this because in animation, they're really emphasizing the performance of the character and the believable weight and gravity of the characters doing different actions. So this really echoes what they're looking for in the program. And I think this is really great because I think it makes much more sense to do even a very brief scene of 30 seconds or less of a character doing something rather than this crazy, like with lots of cuts and editing and After Effects camera moves and stuff like that. That's just fancy technical trickery or wizardry, some say, if that don't speak that language. I think it's great to just focus on a very simple scene with a character doing something, and you could make it slapstick, you could make it humorous if you wanted to, just like something simple but dynamic. That's it. And really get into the performance of that character. And the more physical, the more animated, the better. A soliloquy isn't a great idea because unless you really are a good animated performer, but I think like, yeah, I just really like that they included this. So they give you an idea of that here. Rough animation is fine, which is great. Again, they really don't want it dolled up. They just want a basic but good performance. Another one is TV Paint here, which is what I use. But these are fine too. Procreate's definitely trickier because it's lacking some features. I haven't tried most of these, to be honest, but this is the industry standard down here, but it's very expensive. OpenTunes is a good cheap alternative or free alternative. I think the demo reel is a great idea. I think even 2 minutes is too much. Honestly, I would stick to like 1 minute or even less. Just make it really good animation, really simple. Okay. Definitely do a sketchbook. They love seeing a sketchbook and make it not too many pages. I would say 10 to 15 pages. I've seen that do very well. Comics. So that's all the same. So that's basically most of the new stuff. This is all the same. Don't rely on the action. Many people write so much in here. Rely on the performance of the storyboard panels. That is a big thing that I see again and again happening. Look at this rubric and reflect on this regularly. This is really going to help. They tell you what they're marking for each thing. Really make sure you understand this. They even go into exporting. Great. That's nice. Okay, so some of the things that people asked during the Q&A is about there was a lot of questions about personal work, the kind of things valuable to include in personal work. Fan art and anime came up a lot. So some anime can be fine. Just make sure that it's the higher quality anime style, because some anime styles were made in a way that was meant to just be efficient, to be able to produce a lot of animation very quickly. That's not great. Sheridan wants to see the art. They want to see the drawing ability, the structural believability. And that's why some people have said that Sheridan veers more towards the Disney side of the spectrum, where you see lots of roundness and ellipses and believable structure through the forms. It's not because they are just like they prefer Western animation and drawing styles. It's because it does demonstrate more thorough knowledge of anatomy, and that as they're more of an art-focused school. It's almost more of like a classical arts training school. So as long as the anime style that you choose is good and it shows good sense of anatomy and structure, and it's not overly detailed. That's another thing. They like simplification of folds and texture. They don't want to see this hyper-rendered thing. It seems like some anime is a bit braggy about like how many folds are in the clothing and things like that. They don't really care for that. Again, that's more trickery to just kind of show off, in Sheridan's opinion. So just like, just good, simple design that is effective. That's the best way. A certain elegance to it is good. And fan art, again, like it depends when you're thinking about this. Because if you're just seeing this video in February and you have to make a portfolio in a month and you don't have enough time to do a bunch of new work and you have a bunch of fan art and some of it's really good, then sure, include that in your portfolio. But only include it if A, it's very, very good, and B, if you really don't have any other options, if you haven't created any of your own stories or artwork. But having your own original content is always going to be more valuable. It just makes a lot more sense. They want you to go off from their program and make your stories in the animation industry, like Domi Shi, who directed Turning Red, who was a graduate from Sheridan, 1 year above me. You know, they want people like that are go-getters that want to go make stories of their own. So fan art, you know, they really want, story overlies everything in the Sheridan portfolio. Even the hand drawing should ideally show a little bit of storytelling and what that object is that's being thrown. So, you know, as best as you can, make your own stories. Read, if you have no ideas of what stories to make, read. You need to become a reader and be interested in storytelling. Watch movies, watch animation. Be aware of what stories you like and do a story like something that you see. But don't just do like a riff off of something. Try to make it your own as best as you can. Or try an interesting different historical era for your whole portfolio. Like choose like a, I don't know, like a folk, like a Russian folktale aesthetic for your whole portfolio, and make all the buildings in the linear perspective interior be like an inside of a Russian peasant house or something. Something like that. That would be, wow, okay, there's a theme here. The student is focusing on this, like this aesthetic, and you can see that throughout their portfolio. It seems like they planned it. It doesn't seem just thrown together. All of the work should have a lot of intention and care applied to it. So these are some of the most valuable things. What else came up? It was specific things about different aspects of the portfolio. Yeah, there was a lot of little subtle things like the figure drawing. How clean should it be? And I think fairly clean. It should be quite obvious what the figures are doing. The form and structure and gravity should be present, but that's a little bit easier said than done. It takes a lot more time to explain how to physically do that in a drawing. But yeah, there were lots of good questions during the Q&A, but most of it was related to the personal work I found. And yeah, so I hope this is helpful, everyone. I just wanted to run through everything fairly quickly of this year's portfolio so that you can get off to a good start. At this point in time, you know, it's still several months to the due date in mid-February. Plan your months accordingly. That's super important. And if you're interested, if you need some additional help, then check out our website. This is what I do. I'm the animation tutor, and yeah, so I help students kind of make their portfolios and get in. We also offer a free portfolio assessment, which you can see right here. So take advantage of that. I take a look at your portfolio, tell you your weak areas and what I would recommend. We have a number of different courses online that are all related to making your portfolio. Figure drawing and anatomy, absolutely critical for most students. The world building courses are all about storytelling. The background design one is more perspective oriented. The character design one's more character and psychology oriented. Animation Fundamentals 1 and 2 breaks down the Sheridan portfolio into 2 courses, and that's exactly what that's all about. So we kind of move through each of the pieces of the portfolio gradually. And all of these courses are now available as a membership. So you can just pay a monthly cost and get access to all these courses. So you can move through them at your own pace if you'd like. But there's also, if you want feedback, then take the interactive version of the course, which gives you, so all of the courses are 8 weeks long. The interactive version gives you 8 one-hour feedback sessions with me directly, so I can look at your work and see you progress through the course and give you my feedback, and it's all recorded. I meet you online, you can ask questions. And then there's also bundles of courses, absolutely worth checking out. The Sheridan Animation Bundle has both of the Animation Fundamentals 1 and 2, and also 3 textbooks, or 2 textbooks. There's the membership again. And then there's also a personal mentorship, which is where I make a curriculum for you based on your goals and what you want to do. This is better to do almost throughout the year so that I can keep you accountable to producing work on a regular basis. And then private lessons are basically just blank feedback sessions where you can send me any work you want, and I'll give you my thoughts. The personal mentorship is similar, but it's a bit more of an intentional, I build the curriculum so that you have more of a plan going forwards. So that's my quick run through of what I offer and of the Sheridan portfolio for the 2024 year. So I hope this helps everyone. Take care.